Hello, my name is Scott. I am an independent American comic artist, writer, and filmmaker. My goal with these videos is to demonstrate how I go about creating comics. The process I do, the process I choose, the reasons I pick what I pick, and how I go about it. My purpose for these videos is to give a description of what I do and how I do it. I would like to demonstrate how I do it as I talk, kind of like the Bob Ross of comics. Most of my work is available on Amazon, PDF, paperback, hardcover. I will post a link in the description down below. So where to begin? I've been drawing for my entire life. As early as I can remember, I started drawing. There's just something relaxing about it, enjoyable. It was about 4 years ago I decided to start drawing for a purpose. It's kind of funny, it never occurred to me before. You would think with the tens of thousands of comics I've bought and read that making my own would occur to me, but here we are. I remember at the time I was finishing up my first fiction novel. I had been working on it for about a decade. And as I was getting towards the end of it, I realized I needed to come up with something else to do. I mean, I had been spending hours every day working on this, and it leaves like a void you have to fill up with some activity. So I started sketching out designs for my characters, started like key settings, key equipment, when hit me. It's like, I can draw this out as a comic, like lay it out, each frame, each picture, like set the stage like I were framing it for a movie. And that led one thing to another. And before you know it, I had, 400 pages of a comic. I tried various methods at first, beginning with using like taking JPEG files, putting them into a Word document, and then like coming up with shapes and word bubbles and fitting that around it. It worked okay. It's kind of fun looking back at my early work, seeing just how much I've changed since then. I'm happy with what I created then. There's things have massively changed between then and now. But I still stand by my earlier work. I like what I designed. I like how I drew it. It's definitely not how I draw it now. This whole way I do like the physical anatomy of a person, how I set up the framing is still pretty much the same. How I do page layouts has changed probably the most. When I started, I would draw the entire page in like this complete finished image on one sheet of paper, and it took forever. I would use a straight edge and try to get the lines perfect, and I would fill in every bit of dark space, and it would take me more than a week to do a single page of a comic. Nowadays, I do not do that. That is way too much for a single image, and I do not have the patience for that anymore. It was my first time working with someone else on a project that completely changed my style. I highly recommend stepping out of your comfort zone. I'm not really a team player, so it was a huge change for me. But while I was working with them, I changed how I did it. Like I did my pencils, like my initial layouts. But instead of painstakingly filling in all of the negative space with an ink pen, I just did the outlines, and then I used felt tip pens to do the border around it. Then I scanned it. Then I used just basic paint software, MS Paint. Then I filled in the negative space on the computer, which saved a humongous amount of time. I did lose some of the style on it when I did each page with an ink pen. it left texture and like inconsistencies in color that people have commented that they've missed, but makes a very solid black image, which I definitely prefer now. It also went from taking a week to do a single page to I've been able to do two, even up to like 4 pages a day, which is fantastic. I've been able to crank out more work and seen the results of what I'm working on faster, which I really enjoy. I cannot complain about that at all. Over the last 4 years, I have made more than 12 graphic novels, my own creations, and then recently I started in on public domain works. It's been pretty interesting. Disappointingly, I got a lot less interest in my original works than I had hoped. Looking to draw something different, like a different project, I started doing like classic horror works. The first one I did was public domain H.P. Lovecraft's The Doom That Came to Sarnath. That was kind of interesting. It's a 5-page short story that I turned into a 50-page graphic novel. Nice little short one. It's something I could print off easily and cheaply. It's something I just love giving to random people like I meet at work or like I meet in the coffee shop. Somebody always comments, they're like, "Hey, what you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, drawing." And they're like, "What? You make comics? That's so interesting." And I'm like, "Ah, really? Here." Pull one out, hand it to them. And people always love it. I figure it's good advertising, and who doesn't like free comics? And they are fairly cheap to print. I mean, it's less than coffee usually, so yeah, it's something I enjoy. After that, I did a public domain, like a piece of history. I called it The Legend of the Mothman, and I just kind of like read through all of the old news stories and assembled it, drew it out, put my own spin on it, and kind of came up with my own sort of ending to it. That went decently. I've never used color before. I prefer black and white. My style is based on negative space. So last summer, I decided to do a larger project. I did The Call of Cthulhu, the most famous character from the Cthulhu mythos. I'm really happy with how it worked out. Came out to like, 150, 180 pages. Did it in multiple formats, PDF, hardcover, paperback. It's turned out to be one of my more popular works. Makes sense. Everybody knows the name. Then, maybe 2 months ago from when I made this video, I remembered that Winnie the Pooh had entered the public domain. That one I had a lot of fun with. I ordered the original book off Amazon that's in the public domain now, read through every chapter, and as a children's book, it's very light on the material. I took the first story, laid it out, drew it out, decided to go into like scary horror, and I made Winnie a demon bear and made it like a dark forest, and it was most entertaining. Then I took like some public mythology and like made that the B story, and people loved it. They loved how dark it was, but it was surprisingly friendly, like endearing almost. So that covers my backstory. I think where I'm going to go in the future is to demonstrate my current project. I'm working on Dracula, the horror classic, and I think I'm going to show like where I go from the original script, drawing out the pencils and then inking it, and then how I finish it off on the computer. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think of this down below.